Good morning, Minnesota DFLers, and welcome to the DFL Daily. Richard Carlbaum here, chair of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party. We're here each and every day, Monday through Friday at 10:45, giving you the message, the action, and the tools to take one more concrete step toward winning big in the 2026 midterm election. Okay, we've got a couple of important milestones to highlight today. So first off, early in-person voting for the primaries starts today. Up until this point, you could early vote via absentee ballot, which I did on the first day I was eligible. But today you get to go to your local elections office. You can find them at the Secretary of State's website. We'll drop a link in the chat. You can go to your local elections office and actually feed your ballot into the machine. If you're one of those people who like to do that and then see the ballot count number, you can do that starting today, this weekend. If you haven't already voted early, make a plan to do so. What time are you going to do it? What day are you going to do it? You're going to do it before work, after work? Are you going to bring anybody with you? Every county in the state has at least one location where early voting is now being offered. Please get out there, vote for Peggy Flanagan for U.S. Senate, Matt Little for Congress in the 2nd, if that's where you live, or Trina Swanson the 8th, if that's where you live. Lots happening, and so it's really important for you to make a plan so you don't forget. Again, we'll drop a link in the chat so that you can gather more information. And then after you vote, you should join our 100 Days of Action this weekend. We'll have events across the state. I'm seeing door knocks in Bloomington, Burnsville, and Mendota Heights, just to name a few. I'll be launching a door knock tomorrow in Coon Rapids, and then I'll be in Northeast Minneapolis on Sunday before heading down to Winona for Jack Hadeen's state Senate event in the afternoon in Winona. Please, 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 if you're available to help this weekend with our weekend of action, I know it's going to be hot. We'll have lots of water for you, but we have to hit the doors because these conversations with voters are amazing. When we go to the door, we simply ask, how are you doing? And that begins a conversation that allows us to build a bridge of trust. And then we invite that voter to walk across that bridge of trust and ultimately vote for our candidates on election day. So please sign up for one of our weekend of actions. We'll put that link in the chat as well. And then lastly, make sure you don't miss the Many Over Money rally with Senator Elizabeth Warren and Peggy Flanagan at 7:30 tonight at the Fitzgerald Theater in St. Paul. We'll drop a link here to RSVP as well. It's going to be a good event. I encourage you all to get out there and support Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan as she pursues this primary victory on August 11th. All right, all these events and more can be found at dfl.org/events. This weekend's going to be really important, folks. I really think you should sign up for a weekend of action shift and help us have this conversation with voters at the door. All right, let's get into today's topic on the call. Honestly, this has been one of the best weeks we've had in a while. Republicans are melting down. Our candidates are drawing huge crowds and drawing really important contrasts. And tonight, one of the biggest names in the country is walking into St. Paul to stand with our next U.S. Senator, Peggy Flanagan. So let's get into it. Let's start in Washington. This week, the U.S. House passed a war powers resolution calling on Donald Trump to end his war in Iran. This is the second time this year the House has had to tell this president to stop dragging our country into another endless Middle East conflict, which he promised he would not do. But here's the thing, folks. 4 Republicans broke with their party and voted in favor of it, so it passed. I'm proud to tell you every single member of Minnesota's DFL delegation in Washington voted yes on it. Every one of them said enough is enough. But on the other side, Brad Finstad from the 1st District voted no. Tom Emmer from the 6th District voted no. Michelle Fischbach voted no. And Pete Stauber voted no. They all told Donald Trump, your needless and war of choice against Iran that's jacking up prices for groceries and gas and everything in between is just fine with us. Our constituents don't matter. Mr. President, we support you all the way, not Minnesotans. 4 Minnesota Republicans went on the record saying they're fine letting Donald Trump keep this war going, unchecked, with no plan or end in sight. That's the contrast in just one vote. DFLers standing up for congressional authority, Article 1 of the Constitution, against a forever war, and Minnesota Republicans falling in line behind Donald Trump, no questions asked, once again. Next up, I want to talk about the NRA. They released its grades for the Minnesota U.S. Senate race, and I genuinely could not have scripted better myself. Adam Schwartzy, the Republican-endorsed candidate in the U.S. Senate race, he got an A from the NRA. Peggy Flanagan got an F. Now, the NRA wants you to think that see that F and think it's a bad thing, but you and I both know it's not. Peggy Flanagan failing the gun lobby's report card means she's not letting the NRA lobbyists write her positions for her. It means she's going to fight for the kind of common sense gun safety measures Minnesotans actually want, and frankly, Minnesotans are demanding. Meanwhile, Schwartz's aide tells you exactly who he's going to answer to in Washington, and it isn't Minnesota families. And here's a news story that should make every Minnesotan's blood boil. After Trump's ICE surge killed 2 Minnesotans, Mike Lindell didn't back down. He doubled down. He said that he'd support Trump invoking the Insurrection Act against our state. In his words, whatever it takes. Let that sink in for a moment. A Minnesota gubernatorial candidate is on the record saying that he's fine with the president of the United States deploying the military against the people of Minnesota. Quote, whatever it takes to make Trump happy. Whatever it takes. This is who Minnesota Republicans are running this cycle. And it's not just Lindell. Up and down the ballot, Minnesota Republicans will stand with Donald Trump at the cost of Minnesotans every single time. We saw it plainly and clearly during Operation Metro Surge. Minnesotans drew a line. We didn't look away from the problem. We looked toward one another for support. We didn't look down. We looked up to our neighbors to figure out what they needed. And Minnesotans drew a line. And we all stood with one another in the bitter cold to figure out how to support one another in the midst of Operation Metro Surge. Every single Republican stood with Donald Trump and against Minnesotans. That's the contrast. That's exactly why the contrast with our DFL candidates who are actually standing up for Minnesota families instead of standing in line for Donald Trump could not be more important. Here's some positivity before we go. DFL lawmakers this week rolled out the Minnesota Values Project policy agenda for 2027. This is a roadmap to keeping costs and tackling cost of living issues and taking care of Minnesota families heading into next session. This is their commitment. And don't forget, this is the first time in our party's history DFLers are running in every single state house and Senate district in Minnesota. All 201 legislative contests have a DFLer running in. Republicans left 20 of those seats empty. No seat left contested on our side. No Minnesotan left unrepresented. Okay, so for today's call to action, Congress is standing up to Donald Trump when it comes to the war in Iran, but Minnesota's Republican members are falling in line with Donald Trump. The NRA pointing out that Peggy Flanagan can't be bought by the gun lobby is a good thing. Mike Lindell showing you exactly who Minnesota Republicans are. And finally, Elizabeth Warren in St. Paul tonight to back our next senator. If you want to get involved, make a plan to vote early this weekend and bring a friend with you. And after that, go door knock some doors, make some phone calls, and show up. Head to dfl.org/events and find something near you. Thanks for being with us all week. We'll be back here Monday at 10:45. Appreciate everything that you're doing to help us save our democracy. We've got 102 days until the November 3rd midterm election. Let's go win this thing, everyone.